Hi Federico, how you doing?
Hey, Charlie, it's nice. It's nice to see you again. How have you
I'm
been?
I'm really interested in your memories because you were one of the actually like founding player members of Key Biscayne, and and it's a rare thing also that you are still playing. That doesn't happen very frequently. So, but I'm really interested in, do you remember like how this started, you as a little kid? Because I've talked to your dad as the growing up trying to get this together, but
Mhm.
as a little kid, what are your memories from the beginnings?
It. I mean, to be honest, I don't remember much of the rugby itself. Those first few months or first year of his, which was just us getting together in a park and just passing the ball around. But I do remember the World Cup from that year really well, which is what, again, I think my dad mentioned it during his interview, what reignited that interest in rugby, right? Within us. Rugby had always been not necessarily a big part of my life, but it had been around in my life. I've been to games in the past. I had practiced a little bit in Argentina. I always heard stories about my dad, about my grandfather, about my godfather, always playing, but I never really felt what rugby was really about. And I remember that World Cup, the complete shock in all of our paces of how well Argentina did, and everyone just kind of asking that same question was like, what? Why don't we do that here? Why isn't there rugby either both for adults, for kids? Why isn't there a rugby community in the U.S., more specifically Miami, where we were? So I remember that curiosity. I remember that kind of responsibility of being the ones to get people. I do remember um, talking to people, talking to my friends, talking to people from the neighborhood of like, hey, come out to rugby. It's fun, and always having to explain a little bit of what rugby is, and you can go at it from the sporting sense, and then you could also go at it from the social and the values sense. I know my dad really likes to talk about that, but I do remember having to convince a lot of people to come out. Some worked out, some did it. I remember
And
practice
we're
where
talking about just to get situated, 12 years old, 12, 13 years old, right, when this
yeah, yeah,
started.
yeah. This was very young. This was we said the World Cup
But
2007 and
you were actually one of the big kids in the group,
I
right?
was, if I remember correctly,
The
for
oldest one, maybe.
9 out of the 10 years I was there. Yeah, I was the oldest one. So there was always a little bit of sort of a responsibility because if you don't have players, you don't really have a club. More on top of course of all the people that were involved, but you need players to have a club. So it was always a nice challenge to get people to come out to a sport that they had never even heard of, let alone seen. So, but it was sort of an always an uphill battle since rugby being such a niche sport here in the U.S. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm incredibly thankful of the people I've met, of the experiences I've had, both good and bad. So there's really nothing I can complain about of what I lived through rugby as a 12-year-old kid to playing now as being now an older player in a men's club. I've lived through all of the stages of rugby here in the States, basically, besides playing professional. So I'm incredibly grateful for everything that it has given me.
Just quickly, I want to go back to those first, the beginnings. Do you remember those first games?
I
At all?
do remember the first those first games. I do remember the size differences. That I don't know if it's something in the water or in the food, but Key Biscayne would always seem 2, 3, 4 years younger than every other team that we were playing. But it made me who I am today, and it was incredibly fun. I have friendships that last. I have the friendship I have with your kids, with Mateo and Tommy. It started playing youth rugby back then. So it's always nice to think about rugby back then, look at videos, look at pictures, and just have things to talk about, have things to remember, and have an incredible platform to keep building off today.
It must have been really exciting for you kids after being like just basically throwing the ball around and practicing a little bit to get your first actual game, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's something that I don't think anyone playing since we were so young and we were in a different country. I don't think any of us had played a competitive rugby game before, right? We had played other sports. We knew competition. We knew what playing serious was, but we had never played rugby at a competitive level. So it was a bit. We were anxious. We were a little bit nervous, but I think it worked out for the best.
Let me ask you this just to finish off, because I just wanted basically your thoughts on and your memories from those first days. And as I said, you have become a very accomplished player in the sense that you have been member of teams that went on to, not only win things but display, I think, great rugby, and the culture of rugby. um what do you think, or how important or life changing has rugby been for you? Because you're now grown up, you're probably going to become a father anytime, soon, and you're going to have kids, so the cycle is going to restart. So
That is
looking back.
that is a good question because now I have to put it in practice. I don't know. I don't think I told you I am. No, no, I'm expecting a
Oh, you
son.
are?
We're
Oh
pregnant.
shit.
We're pregnant. We're
Congratulations.
pregnant
I
with,
didn't
with my
know
wife.
that.
We
Okay.
have we have a due date in December, and I think that
Oh,
question I
nice.
will have to answer once I start trying to transmit certain things to my son because I think that's when I will really have to reflect on what it gave me and what I think and what kind of person I became thanks to rugby and what pieces of that I want to take, I want to digest, and I want to transmit over to my son. I do have a little bit of experience with this, with always talking to new players. I did a little bit of coaching when I was at Key Biscayne, so there is a lot of positive to take out of rugby. I mean, I always say that most of my career or where I've come into my career, there's a lot of it that has to do with rugby, with the people I've met, with the relationships I built, with how I grew as a person playing a competitive sport, a really small competitive sport in the U.S. and always having to fight for players, for field space, for respect from other organizations. So I mean, outside of the values and the wonderful teachings that rugby gives you as a person that I'm sure my dad covered extensively. There's a lot that I have to thank rugby for in my life. And now starts a new step, a new stage in my life that I'm going to become a father. So I would love to schedule something with you in a year, in 2 years, and see how that's going.
Okay. You are still playing, right?
I am still playing. Yes, for now I
So
am still playing.
you guys are starting this Saturday, your first game at the ARP.
Correct. This Saturday, September 13th, we are playing Old White in Atlanta.
Ah, so you're playing against your brother.
I am playing against my brother. My dad is not excited. I am very excited. I'm sure he's very excited. I'm sure Gonza is very excited. It's gonna be a good game. This step up that we took to ARP is, I think, some of the best rugby I've ever played. I think it is the best rugby I've ever played, and it's nice to have that access to playing at this level.
Okay, well, good luck for you and not for your brother, I guess. Thank you,
All
Fede.
right, Charlie. Thank you, Charlie. As always, it was nice chatting.
Sure. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.